Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us for the online demonstration of the Boekel Platelet Incubator Agitator. This is the smallest of our platelet incubator agitators. It can hold 6 to 12 apheresis bags. And I'm going to give an overview of the unit first. I'm going to be moving the camera around, so if you get motion sickness, take your Dramamine. Just kidding. I think it'll give you a really good perspective of all the nice benefits this system has, because we designed it to be on the forefront of storing platelets. We'll go through the incubator, then the agitator, and then if you have any questions, just feel free to type them into the chat interface on the online demonstration window, and I'd be happy to answer anything about the battery backup or the inventory management system or the printing. Just feel free to type away and we can get going. So I guess I'll move the camera right now to give you a walk around on the unit. So in the front of the unit we have a 7-inch color touchscreen for controlling the system. We have a thermal printer, and this prints out your temperature log and your event log. We have a USB port. This USB port is for downloading the temperature log, the event log, and for uploading firmware if there's ever a firmware change, and for any type of service. So it's multi-purpose. Around the side, we have a nice handle for actually lifting the unit up when you're placing it. We also have our communications. This is an RS-232 and an Ethernet communication. So if you have some type of building management system or alarm system that you want to hook this into in your building, you can do that. We used a standard protocol, so it should be easy for your IT department to interface that with whatever external hardware they need to. We'll walk around to the other side, and here we have our off-on switch with our fuse and all of our safety markings. We have a fan up here, and this fan actually is for venting the enclosure. This system does not use a compressor, and I'll go into how it heats and cools because it's rather advanced and it's a little bit different than what's out there on the market, but it's extremely efficient. Here we have our agitator. It is rotating at about 60 RPMs. It uses a dual axis agitation. We found that in dissolution studies this actually increased the mixing capability of the unit rather than going side to side. When we open the door, we can see that the agitator stops. We also have a switch in here in case you want to start the agitator back up. In the back of the unit we have our power connections and our communication to the agitator. If the agitator were to fail, say it turns off and it's supposed to be agitating, a signal would be sent to the control system and it would create an alarm. There's also a door alarm, so since this door is open right now it's okay, but if it were to stay open for an extended period of time, an alarm would occur, and maybe that'll happen while we're working with it. The shelves slide very nicely, very easy to use. They're fully removable with these little pins right here. All you have to do is pull the pins out and they come right out. And then this is how you would power off the agitator. There's also an indicator light on the power button for the agitator, so if this is stopped for some reason and this light is on, you know that there's an issue. It's just a secondary warning system. So I said that the heating and cooling method was a little different than a standard unit out there on the market. This unit actually uses a Peltier heater cooler, and what a Peltier is, it has two different materials, and based on the way that you're passing electricity through those materials, they will either pull heat into the system or suck heat out of the system, unlike a compressor. Now a compressor, it actually works with refrigerant and a compressor, and what happens is you're using electricity to compress a gas. When that gas expands, it sucks energy out of the surrounding atmosphere, therefore lowering the temperature. So it's more of a digital type control. It's either on or off. You can't run a compressor type system at 50% because it just won't work. It has to run at 100% or off, and I actually have one of the Peltier units right here. So this is it. This is I'm not sure what size this is, but this takes the place of all that refrigerant and tubing and a heater. Yeah, there's no resistive heater inside the system to then add heat to the system. This does it all. Electricity is passed through here, and depending on whether it needs to cool or needs to heat, that's which way the electrons will flow. And you can run this at 10%, 50%, 100%, and it does a really nice job at maintaining the temperature at 22 degrees. I don't know if you can see that. It's right at 21.9, and it stays very tight to the actual set temperature. We did a lot of real-world testing with these in heat chambers and high humidity to make sure that there wasn't any issues, but this is actually a mission critical Peltier. They use these in a lot of power distribution boxes and military equipment, so that it's a very rugged solid state device. There's no moving parts on this except for the fans, where a compressor has the compressor which is constantly running, and has the refrigerant which can leak out and has to be replaced. So it's a much more efficient, much more robust design than a compressor. So I guess I'll try and move the camera a little closer so I can operate the control system. You can see how this kind of works. Hopefully the glare isn't too bad because it's a really nice crisp screen in person. I can't really do it justice with a webcam. Here we have our chamber light, and that's a nice LED light. We have this speaker icon. Right now we have the alarms turned off just in case, we're working on this video, it doesn't ring our ears. As you see, there's a lot of nice icons that use not only text but a pictorial, so it should be very easy to use if you hadn't had time to take a look at the manual. If you are wondering what an icon is, you can actually go to the help menu, and the help menu will actually have an explanation for every single icon in the system, and it's very easy to use. So we don't want you to throw out the manual, but if you do, you should be able to figure everything out from that screen. So a feature that we get a lot of questions about is our patented inventory management system to help reduce the wastage of blood platelets. This is how you use it. You would actually hit the inventory button and then press the shelf that you would be placing the bags on, whether it's the first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one, fifth one, or sixth one. We'll put it on the first one, and let's say we're going to add 2 random bags to it, and the expiration is going to be on the 20th. So when we hit that check mark, it actually starts a timer for those bags, and they will expire then at 12 a.m. on the 20th. It actually has it right here in the bags. And you can see this shelf is already yellow because it's getting closer to that date. And all these times are actually configurable, but it's supposed to give you a very nice view. So for comparison's sake, we'll add another bag to the second shelf, and we'll increase that by 3 days, 4 days. Now if you go back into the inventory screen, you can see, okay, shelf number 2 has 1 bag, but there's a lot of time before the expiration, and shelf number 1 has 2 bags, and there's a little bit time. Now as these countdown timers click down, they will turn red and then flashing red when they expire. And all of this is in an effort to better maintain the inventory so that there isn't any wastage, because blood products are very expensive. We wanted to do our best job in trying to help eliminate waste in a blood bank. So that's the inventory management system. The event log actually logs all the events of the system. So it can log all the door closes, the opens, when an alarm was cleared, when there was an alarm, when the system powered down. And this entire log can be downloaded to this USB port, or it can be printed out to the thermal printer. I'm just going to swing the camera over there. I'm going to print out an example so you can see what it looks like. Let's just check the amount of information it'll print out. So you can print out anything from 1 day to 30 days on this paper. Since I don't want to waste too much paper, I'll do 3 days for the events, and I'll print it out. Now it says it's printing. Now, it only prints out the most important alarms. It doesn't tell you every time the door is opened or the door is closed. But here it had a high temperature alarm at 419, and then that alarm was cleared. So then you can write your comments here about what happened there. This unit wasn't testing, that's why I had a high temperature alarm. So that's how we do that. Now, if you're curious about printing out temperature logs, we can actually go back out to home, go to the temperature log. We have a very nice graph of the actual temperature log, and you can change the x-axis to however many days that you want. So we can print out this as well for 3 days. And right now the thermal printer's printing nice and quiet. So as you can see, here is the graph of the printer. You can see we're kind of towards the end of this printer paper. That's why we have that red streak on there. But it's a nice high resolution graph right at 22 degrees. You can see where we had our alarm out here. And that's it. There's an area to write comments. But it's just a very quick and easy way to print out that data so you can store it for your quality requirements. So I'm going to swing the camera back over to the screen. I hope everyone can see that. Let me try and raise the camera up a little bit more. Hopefully that gets rid of some of the glare. I think I went through most of the stuff on the home screen. This little icon shows you that it is cooling to maintain that temperature of 22 degrees. The set point is displayed right here, and the time and the date are displayed right there. If you do want to change the set point or change some advanced configuration, all of that is behind in the setup menu, which is password protected. The default password is 1234. You can change this, obviously. And now we see we have a nice array of icons that you can configure. So this is how you would change the password. This is how you would increase or decrease the set point. This is how you would check your calibration. This is how you set your high-low temperature alarms. This is how you would turn off or on the speaker on the system for all the alarms. This is how you would configure your inventory management system if you wanted to turn on the red color at a certain amount. That's how you would do it. It has a pretty good default mode from the factory as far as when it turns red, when it turns green, when it turns yellow. If you wanted to download the complete event log, this icon is for setting the time and date. This is for configuring any type of communication with a building maintenance network. And then this is how you power down the unit. Because there's a lot of alarms in this system, you don't just want to shut the power off, because what will happen, it will go on battery backup. And if it goes on battery backup, then it'll drain the battery. By shutting it down properly, you won't drain that battery backup on. And if you did want to reset the entire unit, if something got messed up in the settings and you just wanted to go back to factory default, you can go right there to the factory reset. So that's it for the overview of the system. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them at this point using the chat window. And it looks like we have one. It's from John. Hi, John. Looks like you have a question on testing the high and low temperature alarms. Good question. I'm going to move the camera closer to the unit so we can show how we do that. So I think that looks pretty good on the screen. We'll go into our settings menu, enter our passcode, alarm icon. So our alarm test is a little bit different than some procedures out there. The unit actually takes control of the Peltier and it will heat the system up, and if it goes above the high point, it will alarm. If it goes below the low point, it will alarm. It's much better than removing anything or putting stuff in ice water. This is actually all programmed into the unit to make testing those alarms very easy. So we'll test the high alarm first. We'll hit alarm test. And actually what it's going to do, it's going to run the temperature of the unit up to 23.5 degrees C. So it's going to be putting voltage into that Peltier to add heat into the system. As it does that, it will approach that alarm set point and it will alarm, and then that's proof positive that if your unit goes above that 23.5 degrees C, it will alarm in time. So I guess we'll just give it a couple minutes here. Now it may take a second to heat up because the PID control of the system, it's tuned so they can maintain that temperature at 22 degrees C. So we're starting to approach that temperature, and the second we go over it, the alarm should go off. Yep, and there we go. We have our high temperature alarm right there. We can silence the alarm directly from here, and we cancel the test. And if we want, we can test the low temperature. It'll take a little time to do that because the temperature of the system is already pretty high. We'll just skip that, but what you would do is hit that and then go into here, and it will start bringing the temperature down to 20.5, and once that hits 20.5, it will alarm. But we've got a little while to go before it gets down there. So it looks like Sue has a question about the inventory management system. Just wants me to run through that one more time. So we'll go back out to the home screen. We can see that the temperature is elevated because of the last test. We have our high temperature alarm right there, and you can see it's grayed out because we cleared it. It will be on the event log. See high temperature alarm triggered right there. If we want, we could actually print that out. So we have our high temperature alarm right there, and it was cleared. So we'll go back and we'll go through the inventory management system. So we'll go in there, and if you remember, we added 2 bags to shelf 1 and 1 bag to shelf 2. And what we'll do is we'll add another round of bags to shelf 3. So we'll put 3 bags on shelf 3, and look at the expiration date on the bag itself. And basically what this will do, today's the 19th, we'll just scroll up until we actually have the date that it expires on. And once we have that for our 3 bags, we can hit check, and our inventory management screen takes care of that. Another nice feature of this touchscreen interface is it will rotate through some screensavers. One of those screensavers is the inventory management. Another one of the screensavers looks like the home screen, so it has the actual current temperature and the set point, the time and the date. Another screensaver actually looks like the temperature graph. So it looks like we have another question about calibrating the temperature. We will go into the settings menu to do that, and we'll enter our passcode, our default passcode, and to check the temperature or calibrate the temperature, you use this icon right here. So the way that you calibrate this unit is first you will calibrate the cold, and you will have your temperature measurement device in the unit, and you will enter the actual value. So right now it's trying to achieve a temperature of 20 degrees C. We would have a thermometer or measuring device, an RTD, inside the unit, and then we would just enter our actual value for our calibrated device right there. We're not going to do that because it will screw up the current calibration right now, and this unit is calibrated, and I don't want to do that without a temperature sensor. But as you can see, it's moving down. This box will turn green when it's ready to take the measurement, and then you just actually enter here, hit check, and you will then calibrate the high side. Now this is a 2-point calibration, and we're able to maintain very tight accuracy on the system because the window of control is so small. Since we're just trying to maintain that 22 degrees C temperature set point, we can be very accurate, and that's indicated by some of our graphs. See, right now the low temperature alarm went off because it's trying to calibrate. So I recommend, if you're going to calibrate the temperatures, that you actually shut off the speaker like that, and then you won't have nuisance alarms, and then just make sure to turn it back on. So we've got another question from Jen. It's about how would you change the passcode? All right, so we go back into our setup menu. We enter our default passcode. So this is the factory passcode, and that's in your manual. It's actually, I think, on the second page. So we just enter our passcode here. We confirm it down here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hit check. It's all good to go. Just to show you what would happen if you didn't do it right, go to confirm passcode, and as you can see, they're not the same, and it won't take it. So that's pretty much how you do that. Once again, this is how you would set your temperature. I'm just showing you while we're in this screen, but most of the time it's going to be set at 22 degrees C. It looks like we have a question from Sarah about changing the x-axis on the temperature. So yeah, I set it to 3 days just so we didn't print out tons of information on our print. But if you go to the x-axis, you can actually get 30 days of data on the graph and on the printer. So if we go back into here, you can see we've got some data up until 324 hours ago, but it looks like the unit was turned off back here and turned on. So let's look at 7 days worth of data, which is what someone typically might be looking at. And as you can see, we have our low temperatures over here on the right side because we were testing all those things today. We were doing some other testing a couple days ago and some other testing right there on this unit right here. So that's how you would change the x-axis. I'll print you out an example so you can see what that would look like for 7 days. And then if you were actually hit the download, this would be exported to a CSV file, which opens up in Microsoft Excel to show all the timestamps for the unit. So you can actually download all these data points. So here's our graph of the unit. It's time stamped. You can see those excursions we had where it went high and low from testing, and then our anomalies today from when we were testing the low temperature alarm and going through the calibration. So there's some really good resolution on this graph. You can see that the y-axis goes from 19 degrees C all the way up to 25 degrees C. This paper is almost at its end. That's why there's this red mark on it. I would say that a roll of paper would last a couple months at least, because it doesn't take too much to print up 7 days, and a roll is many, many, many feet. So it looks like we have another question. It's from Ann. It's about the alarms on the system. And I think the best way to go through those alarms is to go back into the home menu and then go into the help and run down to the bottom of this to show all the different alarms of the system. So here we have one alarm. It's an expiration warning notification. So this is tied to the inventory management system, and this will alarm has a bag that's approaching expiration. Now you can configure these alarms in the settings menu, and I can actually show you real quick how to do that. Inventory management system right there, and what we'll do is we'll touch the yellow indicator. When inventory has less than 36 hours left, the shelf will turn yellow on the inventory management screen and on the screensaver. If it has less than 18 hours, the red the shelf will turn red and you will get an alarm. If you don't want this alarm, you can actually just turn it off. And as you can see, there's no alarm associated with the shelf turning yellow. So it's just a good way to keep track of your inventory so you don't have any bags expiring. So we'll go back to the help and run through some more of the alarms. So the battery alarm, this system has rechargeable batteries inside of it, and it's constantly checking those batteries to make sure that they're holding a charge. If they don't hold a charge or if they're not within the threshold, you will get a battery alarm. Or if you power down the unit without going through the proper power down method, it will drain the batteries, which take care of all the data logging to make sure that your inventory is still in compliance. And if you drain down those batteries, you will also get a battery alarm. So this is our low temperature alarm. So if you go below that 20.5 degrees C, you will get that low temperature alarm. Our high temperature alarm, if you go above 23.5 degrees C, you have your network alarm. So if you do have this hooked into a system and it detects an issue with that connection, you will get an alarm with that. You have your door alarm. So if you open the door and you leave it open for an extended period of time, I believe it's 2 minutes, you will get a warning because the inventory could heat up or cool down and not be maintained at the proper temperature. We have a general equipment alarm, so there's a lot of onboard intelligence in this system to make sure everything's operating correctly. You know, if there's any issues with it, it will let you know. And then the agitator alarm. So if the agitator has a fault, it communicates that to the system and it lets you know that the agitator has stopped and it's not warranted, so it wasn't a planned stop. Well, it doesn't look like there's any additional questions, but I want to thank everyone for logging on and taking part in the online demonstration. Thanks for your questions. They're greatly appreciated. They help us, show how to use this system and the user interface. If you do have any questions, feel free to email me. My contact information is on the website. I'm Brian Canna at Boekel Scientific. You can also email our general information email address, which is boekel-info@boekelsci.com. At boekelsci.com, we have a 1-800 number and other ways to contact us regarding this piece of equipment or any of our incubators or food safety equipment or blood banking equipment, anything. So thanks again. We really appreciate it. And I'm going to log off and feel free to contact us.